Welcome back. I just wanted to say that the outpouring of just complete kindness and heartfelt messages I got from the last video, amazing. Thank you so much for all of your comments. I really appreciate all of the nice feedback on the last video. Thanks so much, guys, and I appreciate you watching. Today we're gonna talk about nepotism. Nepotism has always been a huge part in Hollywood, going back to the very beginnings. When you see a recognizable name on a movie, it causes a level of brand recognition on a subconscious level that makes them say, I want to go see that movie because it has so-and-so in it. People's names on a movie are almost like a brand encouraging you to buy that movie. That's at least the idea that continues breeding nepotism in Hollywood. And that's how movies have always been. You want to see that person's film, you want to see them starring, you want to see the director, the creator, whatever. There's some fascination with that. There's a meme on Twitter right now, so I think it brings up like a bigger conversation. That meme, everyone's talking about nepotism in Hollywood. Today we're gonna roast some of Hollywood's biggest nepotism babies. We're gonna focus on the most recent generation of Hollywood nepotism. So we're not talking about Carrie Fisher or Liza Minnelli or Lenny Kravitz or Ben Stiller or Angelina Jolie or Sofia Coppola or Drew Barrymore or Laura Dern or Jake Gyllenhaal or Gwyneth Paltrow or Robert Downey Jr. or Nicolas Cage. None of them. We're not talking about any of those people. I think the point here today is we're gonna bully some very privileged people. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We're gonna split things up into 3 parts. We're just gonna split things up into 3 parts. Why are you asking questions? Sam Levinson is the son of Barry Levinson, who most famously directed Rain Man. Sam Levinson looks like he could be an extra in American Psycho. I hate the way he buttons his button downs all the way to the top button. Do I look like an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker when I button my shirt up like this? Ooh. So the problem I have with Sam Levinson is that he doesn't make any room for anyone on his show. He writes, directs, produces every single episode of Euphoria. A lot of people praise the visuals on Euphoria. They praise Sam Levinson specifically for his artistic view on Euphoria. But my issue with it is that Sam Levinson doesn't show up to the set of Euphoria with a plan. He shows up and just kind of plays around with the camera crew until they figure out visually what he likes the best. This is not how most film sets run. Most of the time there's a shot list, everybody can kind of work in unison and do their own job. But because Sam Levinson is running his set this way, his sets run 15 to 17 hours. So imagine going to work and your boss doesn't have a list of tasks for you to do. But instead, he just kind of stands behind you while you're working, and every so often he kind of corrects what you do. Nobody could work that way. He makes the set entirely about him. Filmmaking is supposed to be a collaborative effort. That's clearly not happening. But it seems like on Euphoria, Sam Levinson is very strict about how things are run. I think Euphoria could benefit from maybe a writer's room, maybe some guest directors. I mean, does Sam Levinson, the creator and writer and producer of the show, really also need to be directing every single episode? It seems like the man's doing too much. Ben Platt's dad is a huge movie producer. Mark E. Platt is famous for producing La La Land, Trial of the Chicago 7. Ben Platt's dad basically brute forced his casting into Dear Evan Hansen. I mean, Ben Platt famously said that if he were not to do the movie, it probably wouldn't get made.
Were I not to do the movie, it probably wouldn't get made.
And that's because his dad executive produced the movie. The movie was like universally panned because of Ben Platt, because he looked so old in it and he just didn't fit the role anymore. Ben Platt doesn't want to make room for someone new to come in and play the role who's maybe younger, has a younger looking face maybe. Ben Platt didn't want that. Ben Platt's biggest defense of his casting in Dear Evan Hansen, he keeps telling people, watch Grease, go watch Grease. Aren't the people old in Grease? I can't be old, they were old in Grease.
It was really graceful the way you handled just sort of the conversation about you being 27 and playing a kid. And I think after people see the movie, I think there is no Evan Hansen without you. So
I appreciate that.
I'm just like, has no one seen Grease? Like,
I'm excited people see the movie. I think it'll speak for itself.
absolutely.
But in Grease, they're all older playing high schoolers. Whereas in Dear Evan Hansen, it was basically just Ben Platt. Grease would have been a pretty weird movie if every character was played by someone who looked like a teen, except for this guy. Hey, we're high school students. We're a bunch of kids. Oh, I'm going to class. I'm a high school student kid. Hey, what's up? Yeah, I'm also a high school student. Me, hey, you guys want to go to Starbucks after class? This guy looks like he's not actually a high school student kid. He looks like he's much older than a high school student kid. Yeah, I'm a regular age kid just like you guys. What's the problem here? What's the big idea? Someone should probably call the principal or something. This guy, he really seems like he's not a real high school kid. Did Ben Platt not understand that he is the only old guy in his movie? Maybe he's just a little bit too blinded by how much the movie would have never been made without him.
Were I not to do the movie, it probably wouldn't get made. And so I think, my defensive response is to want to like go onto Twitter and be like, F you guys, like you don't even know that like this wouldn't exist without me.
I think the worst part about Dear Evan Hansen is that Jordan Fisher, who has played the role on Broadway, could have easily played Evan Hansen in the movie. But Ben Platt just had to put himself on screen. He truly thinks there is no Evan Hansen without him. If you really wanted the movie that you created to succeed, wouldn't you want the best possible person playing that character? But he doesn't think that way because he thinks he's the best possible person for everything. This one's the hardest part, for sure. This one is definitely the worst of the worst. Max Landis. Before we even get to Max Landis, I think it's worth mentioning his father, John Landis, because I think he has his own slew of controversy. John Landis, famously the director of Animal House and American Werewolf in London. So in 1983, John Landis was directing the movie Twilight Zone. There was a scene where there was a helicopter flying overhead, and John Landis was calling for the helicopter to go lower and lower until it spiraled out of control and crashed into Vic Morrow as well as two children.
Landis and 4 assistants finally went on trial in July.
John Landis was eventually considered not accountable and continued to make movies in Hollywood for years following. But I think it's just worth mentioning, considering how much controversy ended up surrounding his son later in life.
I'm sorry, I think it's inappropriate for me at this time to say anything.
So Max Landis is really bad. Probably the worst of all the nepotism children we've talked about today. Max made it really big in 2012 when he wrote the movie Chronicle. Chronicle, by the way, terrible movie. Just complete shit show of a movie. It's kind of like a found footage superhero thing if you haven't seen it. He wrote the movie Bright that starred Will Smith that was on Netflix in 2017. Now, having 2 big screenplays get produced is pretty hard to do, but obviously not if your dad was a big-time director-producer in the 1980s. Max Landis was known all around town for the huge parties that he would throw and for his special group of friends that he dubbed the Color Society, spelled in the British way for some reason. In 2019, the Daily Beast had an article that outed Max Landis for his continued abuse of women in his special group. All of this was supposed to come out when the movie Bright was being promoted in 2017. The Hollywood Reporter even had a whole expose written, but somehow, that expose never saw the light of day. I wonder how that happened. The issue here isn't necessarily that the children of famous people are also becoming famous. They aren't leaving room for regular people or bringing in new talent in their projects. I think something that's great about filmmaking is that you get to bring in some of the most talented people in so many different crafts, whether it's art and design and lighting and camera work and acting and performing. All of those things come together to make a movie, but somehow when an overprivileged child of nepotism gets involved, they have a way of making everything about them. Sam Levinson could just include more people in Euphoria, or if Ben Platt could have cast somebody else to play Evan Hansen, but instead these nepotism babies have a way of throwing little baby tantrums and getting their way. Having a famous parent probably leaves these people feeling unaccomplished and empty no matter what they achieve. But that doesn't mean that I feel bad for them in any way. The bottom line is that if you are a talented nepotism, which is incredibly rare, it's probably because your family had the time and the money to invest in you to pursue the thing that you wanted to pursue. You got to admit though, it's pretty uncreative of these kids to just want to do exactly what their parents do for a living. I mean, who wants to do what their parents do? Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.